something which is we've added some buttons and some background kernels are all. So okay, fine, let us talk about layouts now. First first let us see what are the layouts we have, and then we'll just move on to that. Let me just say CLS. So basically layout is something layout. So here this layout is common in both AWT and Swing. So why I'm explaining layouts in Swing, basically today is like, these are something which are used for arranging the components. So it is common in both AWT and Swings, and most of these layouts are internal components or internal classes of AWT as such. Fine. So why do we use this is, so till now what we have seen is, we have seen something like we used to set the bounds of the controls, right? Set bounds in the sense we used to set some bounds like x-axis, y-axis, height, and anyways we have to give height and width of the control anyways, right? But what we used to say is we used to set bounds, but we used to decide where the control should be, right? We also have something called layout, set layout. So this set layout is nothing but, by default Java provides a few layouts, right, which will take care of the arranging of all the components whatever you actually insert in a frame, right? So we'll see some of the layouts which we have. We have something called border layout. We have flow layout. We'll see examples for these things anyways, right? Flow layout. You have something called grid layout, and you have a box layout, and we will be seeing the card layout. So these are layouts which we have, right? And by default whenever you create any frame and put a controls into that, right, the flow layout is a by default one which will be acting upon, right? But if you set something called set layout null, right, then you have to mention all your controls with respect to the sizes and all, right, with respect to x-axis and y-axis, right? Now let us see each and everything what it does. So let's take out border layout first, right? Now this border layout is nothing but it arranges components in 5 regions. So border layout arranges controls in 5 regions, which is north, right, south, east, right, we have west and center. So these are the 5 regions which you can use. By using a border layout you can actually arrange your controls. Let us see how to do that. So here let me just make it as frame first, so for which you will have to extend your JFrame, right? So if you guys have seen the AWT class, right, the Solidus class, so what we'll be doing is we'll be extending our JFrame, right, which means I'm making my CLS layout as a swing frame here, right, same as extending frame in AWT, right? Now in this what we'll do, so we'll just create a object of this class which is f is equal to new, let us say layouts, and we say f dot set title of, let us say we'll be looking on border layout maybe. Let us take this layout here, and then you have to set some size for this, which is some, let us say 400, 600, and then f dot set visibility, and then we'll set default close operation as we have seen this, which is jframe dot exit on close, right? We just want to dispose the whole window whenever it closes. So this is what we just created, a sample frame window, right? So when I run this, so we'll see the simple window here, which is a bit weird. Let me just change it to 500 and maybe this to 550 maybe, or let us say 400 and 450, some decent size and width, right? Yeah, okay. So this is a window. It's a title as border layout and height and width, and we have seen something which is visible true, right? So when I close this, you can see the whole process will be getting fine. So now let's let me create some constructor here. So in this constructor, now first step what we should do is always try to get the container first, because whatever you have to do, you should do in a container. But anyways, whenever you add any control to the frame, right, so it will be added to container as such, but it is always better to take the container, right? Let us say it is LOBJ sub C container is equal to, I can say this is nothing but the current instance of my class, right? You have something called current instance as CLS layouts, right, which means CLS layouts is the current instance. I'm creating a new instance of this, right? So this dot, you have something called get content pane. This content pane will give you the current container of a JFrame, right? Fine. So then what we'll be doing is, let us create some buttons. So like button maybe B1 is equal to new J button with some string here. Let us say so 1. Right, the first button is there. So let us add this button here. So while adding this button, what we'll say, we'll just say this dot add, right? So we'll add this button, and you have something called in this adding. If you can see the add, there are so many constructors of add, right? There are so many. You can directly add a listener to your component. You can directly add something, right? So what we'll do, we'll just take this. So now here we'll be adding something called border layout dot. If you can see, there are so many regions where you can set. Let us say we are setting a north, right? This add of this control to the north button, right? Now we have set this here. So instead of this, now what we have, why I mentioned this is, in our availability we used to use this, which means the current instance frame. Now what should we use? In the place of this, we have to use something called this dot content pane, which is the container. Let me take it out and add it to this, right? Let me run this. You can see one got added up at north. So in your form, right, the upper portion is north and lower portion is south, in the same way east and west, right? We'll add more buttons and we'll see how it goes. So we'll take B2, B3, B4. I have to take one more for center, maybe B5, right? 2, 3, 4, 5. So what we'll do, we'll just add up these things. So B2, let us say I'm adding it in like a south, and B3 I'm adding in something called east maybe, and then B4 west, and B5 in the center, right? So we have just added a few buttons in different regions. Run this. Yeah, you can see the button. You can see the button arrangement now, which is center button here 5, 1, 2 is south, right? And you can see 3 is nothing but east, right? And 4 and 5. So this is nothing but your border layout. So as you want, right, you can just arrange your controls in this way, right? In this way of pattern. So this is nothing but a border layout which we have, right? Now let's move on to the next layout, which is flow layout. So this is a one which is mostly, it's anyways it is a default layout of Java. So whenever you create any AWT window or a Swing window, right? So this will be a default. Now how this arranges is, so whenever you create any flow layout for any window, right, so it will be arranged in some line actually, right? Line in the sense, whenever you mention the orientation of your frame, so it will be arranged in that line. So let us check out, then you will see how it gets arranged. So let me take a new one, which is new class CLS, maybe let me take this flow layout. So here let me just copy these things so that we can save some time. So here we have to change the class to a CLS flow layout, and here what we say, we will say extensor JFrame, right? Now we have made this as a frame window. Now here let me say flow layout constructor here, right? So let me take the same example of these buttons here and see how it gets added, right? So CLS flow layout, and we have seen the so we have got the container and we have got few buttons here, right? Now we'll add these buttons to our container. Let me just see dot, we have add of your B1, right? Just we have B2, B3, B4 and B5, right? So and then what we'll say, we'll just say this. So we'll set some layout for control dot, we have something called set layout. You can also set layout in a separate layout, right? You can just say new flow layout. So here you can directly set a flow layout, or you can give some argument. Let me just give the direct flow layout and let me run this. When I run this, you can see they have arranged in a certain manner. So this is nothing but a center arrangement of a flow layout, like all your buttons, right? Now you can also mention where to arrange. Here you have to mention something called flow layout dot the direction, or you have something called these you have 5 things, which is you can actually make them center, which is a default. You can make it right, but let's take it right here. So if I run this, you can see all controls will go to the right of your right arrangement of a flow layout, but it will be done in a line, right? If control grows, right, it will go to the next line. Let me take more controls, or let me give the size of window. Let me shrink the size of window, maybe, right? So 350 or 250 rather. Let me take this 200, right? When I run this, yeah, you can see now, right? You can see that it will go in a line, and the first will go to flow layout of right, because we have taken it as a right. Now if I take it as center here, now if I run this, yeah, so it will be arranged starting in a center, right? In the same way, if you do it in left, right, it will take it as a left first, right? So it will arrange in a line first. So based on, now you can see here we are not giving any size of the set bounds, not even a size. With respect to the text you are giving, it will be automatically arranging. Let us say I'm giving one apple, right, something here. I'm just making this 3 something called mango, right, something. So let us see how it arranges. I run this, you can see it will automatically take the size. So here 1 apple, and then 2, and then here you can see the 3. For 3 it is not. So now you see, so these are default one, right? These are default one. Now you can see 3 mango. right? There was no space, that's why it just immediately went to the next row. So obviously you can actually, whenever you increase the size, obviously again it will be in a same flow, right? So that is how the flow layout works in a line and line by line, right? So that is nothing but a flow layout. So always you'll be using set layout if you need, and border layout if you want, you can use direct layout, right? That is how we use the flow layout. And by default, flow layout
Srinath, this is Purush.
Yeah, Purush.
Is there a way to get that in vertical order?
I'm sorry? Yeah.
It is in horizontal.
Yeah, yeah.
Can we do vertical too?
Yeah, you can do it in other in box layout. You can do it in box layout in vertical order. Yeah.
No, I mean my question is like, I mean the flow layout, whatever we have discussed, is in horizontal way, right? I mean it is. Can we do the same thing in vertical also?
Yeah.
Like from top down.
No. In flow layout, it will arrange in a horizontal manner itself. It won't arrange in a vertical manner, right? It is in line.
Okay.
Right? It's in compulsory horizontal line. But if you want to arrange the things in vertical, you have something called box layout, right? There you can arrange in vertical layout. Fine.
Okay. Fine.
Okay. So that is your flow layout. Yeah. And let's go to the next layout, which is grid layout. Now again, grid layout, with the name itself, it specifies that whatever controls you add to the frame will be arranged in a grid manner. Grid is nothing but some rows and columns, right? So this is nothing but a rectangular grid, right? Each and every item will be added up in that way. So let us see few of them again. Let me take a new class, or let me take a new, or I can use the same. Take a new class rather, so that whenever I copy this, you can have a better look of this. So CLS layout here. Let me copy these things, which is my creation of JFrame. You have to replace your class name here. So grid layout, and make it extends your JFrame here. Now we have made the grid layout as a that. Now here let me take a constructor, which is CLS grid layout. So inside this, let me take these things so that we can save some time. Right. Where, let us say, we have direct line methods here. Let me use some more buttons here. One more button might be fine, of maybe 6 B6, right? And let us add the B6, right? And then let us set our set layout to new grid layout. Now in this grid layout again, right, you have again few direct things. Let me just say direct layout here. So we didn't give any arguments. Let us see how it works now first. When I run this, you can see that everything works in a grid manner. So why we are getting this is like we are getting this because of size, right? Let me increase the size. It's 400 and 450. It arranges in a direct row when if you are not giving any size. Let us say we want a grid in some 3 by 2, which is we can give 3, 2, right? Which is in a row. Maybe we want a 3 components and 2 columns. Right? Let me run this. Now you can see here, right? We have 3 rows and we have arranged in items in a 2 columns. Right? You can see each and every item will be completely filled up with this. So in this way, you can arrange your controls if you want. Right, all the controls filling your. Now as you grow this, right, obviously your face will be growing, right? This will grow. So that is nothing but your grid layout. I'm sorry, I'm not changing this title bar. That's fine. Okay, just you can just make that. So this is something where you're actually arranging. Now if you add one more button, let us say, right, one more button to this. So what happens to that? So B7, right? And we are arranging it with the B7, right? So when I run this, then obviously you can see the 7 will be oops, 7 will be added to the next, right? So basic it will take 3 by 2. If it has one more, it arranges in this way, right? So when you shrink this again, right, because it will shrink in the same. So this is something which is taken in a grid manner, right? Which is it will take in a rows and the columns you mentioned. So by default it will take completely all the controls in a single row and it will fill up, right? Which is nothing but this. Run this and everything will get in the same, right? Yeah. So that is your grid layout. Now let's get back to the box layout. And this box layout is something, as it mentions, right, everything will get arranged either vertically or horizontally only, right? It will fill up your J frame with completely as a vertical or a horizontally. And you have some 4 constants here. You can actually arrange the controls in x-axis or a y-axis, or you can say line axis or a page axis. Anyways, we basically use x-axis and y-axis, which is nothing but a vertical or horizontal, right? Let us add them once. Now here, let me take the same example and let me just let us say we want to add it in dot set layout. Yeah, you will say something called new, let's say box layout, right? Of I want to do the box layout of this is nothing but a current instance to which axis you want. So let us say I want box layout dot from x-axis maybe, right? First let us take it as x-axis now. So now let us see what happens to all these things on this. Just got some exception here. What is that? Says AWT event queue error. Box layout can't be shared. Box layout. Okay. It seems each and every button. Okay, so yep. So the problem is this. So whenever you're doing box layout, right, each and every control should be related. So that's what it is saying. Box layout can't be shared, which is it should not be separate. It is already about box layout cannot be shared. Now let us see how we can actually join them. So let me create a new layout again. CLS box layout. Sorry. So let me take up this frame content here and box layout. And let us extend this with our JFrame. And now let's create a constructor here. CLS box layout. And now let me take this only container. Okay, so this will not work. So let us uncomment this so that whenever I copy this, we'll be getting the nice look of that. Okay, we have taken the container. Now how can we create the controls which are related? We'll see how. So let me take J button, right, and we'll take an array of J button, right? Because in array everything will be connected with let us say it is P is equal to new. We'll take new J button, right, of size some maybe, let us take 5 controls maybe, right? Yeah. Now, so how can we fill them? Let me take a for loop here again. So from I to 0 to, let us say I want to fill 5 controls here, right? So here how I can do is, now B is my button, B of I, right? I'm just taking this I. So b of 0, it is equal to, now let me create a new button here, new j button of some string, let us say that. So here let me just give something called button, maybe plus I, some string, right? Now we are creating some controls which are related, right? In the same set we are creating, which is an array. And then once we create this button, now let us add this to our container. Dot add of our component, which is b of I. Okay. Now we are instantiating our button. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Now let us give this layout and see what happens. This our lobj c dot set layout of new box layout, right? Let us say this, I want to add to this container, or you can give this, or you can directly do something called lobj c, yeah, do the same. And then you can give something called box layout, right? We have to give the number. If you remember the number, you can give, otherwise you can just go through this. Let us say I want to give it in y-axis, right? Like horizontally, right? Let me run this. Okay, perfect. Now we can get that. Now we have got something which is in horizontal, right? So all the things will get arranged in a horizontal manner. That is nothing but a box layout. Now let us see how it gets arranged in something called x-axis, right? Yeah, you can see that it got arranged in a x-axis here, right? In the same way, you have something called line axis. Okay, line axis is nothing but here again in the same line, maybe, right? In the same line it is axis. Let us see how it goes for page axis. It again goes, so it's a, like, you know, x-axis and y-axis again, so vertically and horizontally.
Srinath, could it also work with a for each loop?
Okay, here you mean?
Yes.
Okay, like we have to create a control, right? If so, this is something which I am assigning, right? For assigning, I hope we can't use for each, right, Ron? Because for each is something which is used to retrieve, right? Retrieve the data. So that's why I haven't used for each. Fine.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because you had to assign the variable. Okay.
Yeah, because I have to create an each and every object of this, and then I have to assign, right? But for each will get you that, right? So that's why I haven't assigned. But yes, you can also use, if you want for each, you can use that. For if you once you create a different controls, maybe for each you can add into some components. Yeah, maybe you can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Fine. So that is your box layout. Yeah. So let's move on to the next one and the last one, which is card layout. So this is something which is very special one. Like this card layout is something which is used for, like, you know, like for showing some thumbnail photos, right? And this card layout, as the name mentioned, it is completely it shows only one control at a time. Even if you add some 10 controls, right, it will show only one control, and then on click of first it will go to the next, on click of second, or it will go to the third. In that way it works, the card layout. Like it works in something called you know, your strip film, which is, you know, it will be the photos moving in some, you know, once you play, all the thumbnails will be actually moving on, right? So in that way card layout works. You see how how we can create this card layout. Let me take a new class here. CLS card layout, right? So let us make this direct and let's take out this card layout here. Now this is something which is a JFrame. We have to extend this class to JFrame, right? And then let's take up the constructor here. So in this constructor, what we can do is we can actually add the controls. Let me take these controls again, which is maybe these controls. Yeah, I'll take all 7 controls maybe, and even the adding part, and rather the whole controls part. Yeah. Perfect. Fine. So we have taken some controls and we have added them all, right, to some container. So what we'll do here, so how to work in this is, for first what we have to do is we have to set the layout, right? So for that we have to create a separate card layout here. Let us say LOBJSON CARD layout. Let us say, just taking this. So why I'm mentioning it outside of why I'm mentioning this as a class variable is, right? So we have to use this one across your constructor and in one more method. I'll show you what exactly is said, right? So we'll be creating some action listener here for our buttons now, right? So that is our control. Now once we are done with this, we have to create a instance of a card layout is equal to create a new card layout of, yeah, you can give the spacing, the horizontal spacing, how much space you want to give, or you want to fill up. You can also fill up the whole. Let me give some horizontal spacing of 50, and I'll show you what is a spacing when we actually get in when we run this. And let us say vertically I want a 20 space, right? So now once you create this, let me add up this dot set layout of my LOBJ card layout. Now this is perfect now. So we have created this and we have created a card layout. Now first let me run this up and see what happens. So we have created a card layout, we have done this set layout, and we have added all the controls whatever you want. Perfect. Now let me run this up. Now when I run this, we can see one control written. Now the spacing is nothing but this is your x-axis spacing or horizontal spacing, and this is your vertical spacing. If you want to give the right same, you can just give the same one, same space, right, and run this. Now you can see the same space got, right, the horizontal and vertical space. Now you can see this is a card layout. Now when I click on this, you can see there is nothing been happening. Why? When I click on this, because you have to handle that click, right? Until unless you do the clicking part, right, in swings and LLP, nothing can be done. You have to do everything you want. When I click on this, it has to move to next control. So that moving part anyways, your card layout will help out, but you have to handle the click of the first button. So until unless you handle the click of first button, so our swing doesn't know that this has been clicked, right? So let us go and add a listener for this. Now how can we add a listener for this? Again, you can implement the listener first, which is action listener. We have seen that. You can also make your class a listener. Now in this case, it will act both as a frame and as a listener. Right? Let me minimize these things once. Now you can see it says it has to implement something. When I click on this, now you can see it is implementing something called action perform. Now your CLS card layout acts in two ways. First way is as JFrame and as an action listener again. Now here, how can we assign this action listener to these buttons? Now in this way, you can just say b1 button dot add action listener. Now we have to give the instance of this action listener. Now what is the instance? I can just say this, because the current, whenever you create an object of this class, right, which means you are also creating an because action listener is nothing but a parent of card layout, right? So immediately this, in this context, it will take action listener as a object here. In the same way, you can add this for all buttons. Maybe you can just do it for P2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, right? The same action listener, which means whenever you click on any button, right, immediately this will get triggered, which is nothing but action perform, right? Let us check this out, which is, let me just say, now in here, right, So we'll see much of action performed when we actually do action vision separately. We'll go to the controls, we'll be seeing few controls, but for now let us say whenever any button clicks, it will be immediately hitting this. So here what you have to do, you have to move to the next button. Now in order to move to the next button, so what we should do is, whenever we are adding anything to something called container, right, you have to create a relation again. You have to create a relation for each and every control. So how to create a relation? Now you can give some tags here, which is a tag, and you can just mention a, f, b here, you have c, f, t. It takes in this manner actually, f, e, f, f, and let us say f, g, right, in this way manner. Now here, now what you can do is, now I will be taking my card layout object, so that's why I have taken my card layout outside the class, and anyways in the constructor I have created the object of this card layout and I have set this to my current container, right? Now in card layout you have something called next. So here this will give you the what is the next you want. In next, what is the next in the container, what is the next control you want. So in this you have to give the container, right? Let us give this dot get content pane, because this will give us the current content pane or container we are working on. So this is how we work. Let me run this. Now you can see there is a container. When I click on this, now you can see, right? When on click of everything, it is going to last. Now it says it is rounding up, right? That is how it goes. Okay? So this is nothing but your box layout. Fine. Sorry, card layout, where each and it will show only one card at a time. So one card is nothing but one component at a time. Right? One component at a time it will be showing to you. Fine. So that is how card layout works. Basically, anyways, by default we'll be giving a flow layout, right? So these are some things which is border, grid and all, special conditions will be giving, but mostly you'll just assign a flow layout directly, right, to the to this layout, so that all the controls will be arranged automatically, right? So these are about layouts, right? And let's move on to the next thing, which is, let us see how to work with some of the controls here, right? Now the basic thing is, what we have to understand, as we have understood in AWT, is how can we handle event. That is the main thing. Each and every component handling event will be same, but let us see how we can handle different events for different controls. Again, the most of the event I have given a list of these things and I will have copied them. So these are again same. We will be having the same event listeners, because even in swings, right, the events are being inherited from AWT again. So there is nothing special. Now you can see it here. It's in card layout we have just created, right? You can see that, right? Your event action listener is coming from your AWT package, right? Even your layouts are coming from your AWT package. Even your container, right? You're holding the container is from AWT package. That's why always you should not say that swing is a replacement of AWT, but swing is an extension of AWT. Swing completely even now uses the internal APIs of AWT, right? But they have designed swing in such a way that whatever internal API is being used only for logic and not for display UI. Because here whenever I run this, right, whatever UI I can see may not be the same in other machine like Mac or Linux. This may change, right? Obviously the window layout will definitely change, because in Windows the close, minimize and maximize buttons are at right top maybe, right? But in obviously in Mac notebook you'll be getting in maybe left with the round symbols, right? It differs again. So in that way we can actually create that. Now let's move on to the controls, right? Let us take base control again, which is CLS button. Let us understand this button again, or let me take it as CLS components. we'll see some compound components in a same class, right? Now let me create this as CLS components. Okay, first let us make it as a frame. Extends JFrame here, right? Which is let me take this F. Let me copy that so that we can save some time. Let us say it as components, right? And they are taken some 400 and 500 is right? Now with this we get the normal frame layout, right? Perfect. Now let us create some controls in this, right? Let me just create some CLS components constructor here. Now first we'll see how the button works, right? We'll take a few buttons. Well, first, before starting, we have to take something called, no, even before starting, always try to use try catch first, and then container like lobjc is equal to like this dot get content pane, right? I've got my container. Now to this container, what we'll be doing is yeah, first let us create some buttons here. Let me create one button first. J button, again let me take it as color, some color of it is a blue, right? Now so this one, what I'll do, so for this container, right, I'll add some layout as new flow layer, right? Flow layer, right? And then what I'll do, I'll just add this control to my container, right? Dot add of my v1. Simple. So now we have added a simple button here. Now let me run this. Now you can see a simple button which is being arranged here, right? When I click on this, what happens here? Nothing happens because we haven't handled this part, which is blue, right? Now let us see how to handle the event of this click. Now basically again it is same which we have seen. You can handle the event in two ways. You have to create a listener, right? You have to create a separate listener, and then you have to handle the event delegation model. Now we have already seen that you can actually create listeners in three ways. First phase, you can create a separate class and you can create an object of that and assign, or you can create an anonymous class here. Anonymous class is nothing but you can create p1 dot, let us say add something called we have something called action listener, right? Add action listener. So here it is asking for some action listener, right? You can just say new some action listener. So you can see here it will automatically create a listener for you. Yeah, it will automatically create a listener for you, which is, this is nothing, this part of story is nothing but a anonymous class being created. Now let us see whether it works. Now here in Swing you have something called a message box to show some data. So that message box is in J option pane, right? And then you have something called show message dialog, fine? So here it wants some component. I don't want to give any component as such, and I'll give some data. I'll say this is message box. Now let us see whenever you click something whether this is getting triggered or not, right? Let me run this. Now because when I click on this, now you can see this is a message box. Okay? Now this is something which is something called as a anonymous inner class. So what does anonymous inner class means is, instead of creating a separate class, implementing this interface, right? So what we have done is we have created a direct new of interface. Now you can see this. So these are start and end of our action listener, and here instead of creating a separate class, we have created a virtual class here, right? Virtual class, and we directly said it is a instance of new action listener. Now inside this there is a start brace and close brace, which means this is a virtual class. So inside this all the methods will be same, like all the overridable methods will be all abstract methods of this interface will be implemented automatically. So that is nothing but your anonymous inner class, right? And now this is a one way, and another way is what we have seen. You can also create this in here, right? So now here you can make your class. Now we have already extended this class with JFrame, right? Which means we have already inherited some class to here. Now can I inherit one more class into this class, guys? Can I do that? So can I extend one more class to this class? So any guess?
No, we cannot extend that one.
Yeah,
Implement.
we cannot do that because in Java only single level inheritance is possible, right? Not a multi inheritance is possible, right? But yes, you can have a single level multiple inheritance, which we have already seen, right? So you can actually inherit one class in any number of classes, but for one class you can inherit only one class, right? But you can implement any number of interfaces, right? You can implement more interfaces. We'll see it here, right? Let us first implement the action listener, which is action listener, okay? Which means I'm making this class. We have just seen this. We are making this class both a frame and an action listener. Fine. Now let me just minimize these things and show you. Now it is giving some error because this is an interface, right? And whenever you implement any interface, it is mandatory that you have to implement all the abstract methods of this. Now let's go back here and just say add an implement method. Click on this. Now you can see this is an abstract method which we have in this interface, and it will be overridden to this class. Now in here, now you can say yes. Now you can do something in here, which is in this action listener. What I can do, I can just say this, right? Which means whenever I create an object, this object will be created for both frame and an action listener. So it acts accordingly, right? Whenever I say this here, which means the context here is JFrame, and when I say this here, the context here is action listener, right? Now here, so now we have got some trigger here. So whenever you click on this button, immediately, so we are delegating this event to an interface called or a listener called action listener. So in this listener, we have one method which is action perform. So this will be triggered internally. Now let's fill up this. So let us say I'm taking my container here. So have we done that container? Or let me just paste this container outside so that we can use the same container. And let us instantiate this, right? Now let me use that container for, let us say I want to set the background color, right? Color dot, let us say I want to set it as, let me take the color of AWT dot, let us say blue, right? So we just want to move. Let me run this. So whenever I click on this blue, now you can see that the whole now we are getting some output of your button, right? So that is nothing but your event. Now here, let us say we are creating one more button here, which is P2, let us say, which is, let us say, it's some green, right? Now in the same way, you cannot have one more, right? You cannot say one more action listener implement, right? So now let us say I want to use the same action listener even for this button. We have already seen that, right? Let us say I'm also adding this listener to P2 button. Add action listener of this. But what happens here? So in this, what we have done, we have just assigned the color directly. So when I run this, so we haven't added it to this one. LOPGSC dot add a component called B. Right? So when I run this, now you can see it will arrange in a flow layout of center. Now even if I click on green, right, it will be blue again. Why? Even if I click on blue on green, it will be same. Why? Because so listeners for both the buttons are same, and inside this listener, whatever method we have directly giving some color. So that's what is a problem. So whatever you do on any of the button, right, it will act in the same way. Even if you take one more button, right, it does the same. Let us say red, right? Let us say you are adding it we're adding this B3 here, and we're adding this to this, which is B3, right? And we'll make it as B3. Right? Even if run this, we'll have 3 buttons and you can see the same. Now how to differentiate again? So how to differentiate between these three is again the same as a AWT. Now first, what we'll do is we'll take a string like the data. So whenever you click any of the control, right, and when you are actually handling any listener, right, all the details like the label name, which is name, right, and some of the properties of this will be transferred to something called action event, which is nothing but the variable here e. So here you can get the name of a control bean, so which is nothing but a get action command. Right? This will give you which command you have clicked on, right? And based on this you can actually work on. Let us say data dot equals, let us say if it is blue, then I will make it as a background is a blue. And let us say let me copy this. Let us say I'm taking it as else part of some green again, right? What I can do, I can copy this up and just say I want as green, right? In the same way, let me copy these two and just say if it is red, so I want it to be red, right? So that is how it works. Now what we have done, we have created a multiple things, and we are actually handling multiple things in here, right? So that is nothing but your multiple handling here. Now here, before getting that, let us create one option pane message box, so that we can see what exactly is being selected, right? So what exactly we are getting in this listener as such, right? So message dialog of let us say this null, I don't want to do anything, and the message should be let us say selected item. So let me just say plus or LSTR data, right? We're just showing something that whatever you have selected, we are showing in a message box, and then we are making it, we are actually coloring out, right? Let me run this. So when I selected green, right, first it will show that okay, the selected item is green, and I click on this, then it will go and make a color green. Click on red, select item red, click on this red. Blue, it's a blue, okay, go to red again, right? So this is how you can handle multiple controls and assign one action listener, and then based on the action command, right, you can go with your logic here. So we have just taken a background color, you can just write out whatever logic you want on a button click, right? So that is what is so that is how you actually assign listeners to different controls, right? So that is what is so that is how we do. So we'll see few more controls tomorrow, right? Like we'll see some maybe checkbox, we'll see some text boxes, and maybe we'll see one complex control called tree, how to create a tree view. As such, we have a folder structure, right? How to create a tree, how to work, I mean what are the different actions we can do in tree, right? We'll see that, right? So with that, we'll be winding up with strings, right? So these are we actually work with strings. So basically there are 3 topics which you have to understand much. One is the layouts, and before that you have to understand what are the different classes you have, right? And then how to handle an event delegation, right? Event delegation model, if you understand this much better, that's more than enough actually, right? You can actually design any swing package you want, right? Fine then guys, so that will be all for today. Let me just copy this, share these things with you. Just go